Welcome back, YouTube. So today I'm out here working on the 84 Mazda project. The 302 is almost ready to fire up. I just got to wire up a solenoid to a battery to the starter, and then from the battery to the HEI distributor and the electric choke, and then run my fuel lines. And then once it's all hooked up, I'm going to roll it over there. We're going to test fire it. I got my fuel pump, the fuel pressure regulator with a gauge. Pretty excited to fire that thing up. I got all the vacuum lines hooked up. I had to make this coolant elbow because I'm not going to be running a heater core, so this will just run back to the water pump itself. And then back here I made an EGR block off plate. And then one thing I got to do, this carburetor is basically just going to be on here to get the engine test ran, and then I'm going to order either a Ford carburetor or a Holley carburetor because I need to get the right bracketry so I can run the detank cable that'll go from the carburetor to the AOD transmission. And after doing some reading online, you have to use the right cable and get it set to a 1-to-1 ratio off the carburetor, because if not, you'll just fry that transmission in about 5 miles. Or 500 miles, I guess. But that's where we're at on there. I gotta get an alternator bracket built because it's not gonna have power steering either, because this truck doesn't have power steering. Retrofitted rack and pinion might come later down the road, but right now that's not the goal. The goal is to get this hot rod running and on the road. So under the hood, I need to come in, cut the factory motor mounts out on both sides. I need to notch this cross member, and the piece that I take out I'm going to flip over and put back in there upside down to fill most of that gap back in, because I need 8.5 inches and I've got enough room for the oil pan to fit over that way. I just need to notch this out so the motor can sit down about another 3/8 of an inch. Also, one thing I didn't film myself doing this morning is I ground down the floor pan on the driver's side to get all the rust off. And I just sprayed some silver spray paint, so I'm going to come back through later, clean it up better, and we're going to rhino line the whole floor. But I just wanted something on there to kill the rust. This truck still has a factory black frame. The frame's in great shape. The only rust this truck had was it sat in a garage and water leaked in through this crack in the windshield, and it ran down and rusted out just that section. I'll be able to get that cut out and replaced pretty easy, but that's the only rust on the whole truck. So with any luck, a lot of elbow grease and a little bit of money, this thing will be running by this fall and on the road in a year. I'm excited. I've worked on vehicles my whole life, been a mechanic, put lift kits in, general maintenance, decent mechanic work, but I've never built my own vehicle, so this is exciting. This truck is for my wife. My Bronco is going to be mine, and hopefully next fall, so a year and a half from now, we can take her truck and my Bronco to some truck shows, just for shits and giggles. So that's where I'm at right now. Let's get cutting on this engine bay. Okay, engine mounts are cut off, the cross member is notched. I'll grab my gloves here, and I'll take the piece that I cut out. I'll have to trim it down some because I want it down inside. And then I'll make plates to fill that gap on both sides, just to tie back in the strength. And these edges here, I'm probably going to knock down about 15 degrees, and then I'll just have a small gap to fill. And I'll weld it up and grind it, make it look fairly decent. It won't have to be perfect because the engine's going to be on top of it. That's where we're at. So 2 years ago, when I decided I was going to start this project, I looked online for hours and I could only find one instance where this engine had been put in this truck before. And I saved these pictures, but I can't find the thread where I found these pictures from. But this is where I got the idea for what I did. So there's the 84 Mazda with a 302. This guy notched out the radiator support, which I'm going to try not to do, but if I do have to do it, I'll make it to where it bolts back in. But see, he didn't even clean his up real well, and he didn't close that back in. And my motor mounts will be similar to these, but that's why the other motor mounts had to be cut out, because these ones will sit down about 2 inches from the top of the frame rail. So that's the design he made. I want to have mine on some rubber isolators, but something similar. And if you look, he's got the firewall cut out right there and right there for the exhaust. I'm hoping not to have to do that. I'm hoping to make a small cut for the pipe to go through, and since I'm a welder fabricator, if I have to make some sort of funky custom pipe to do it, I'll do it. But that's where I'm at today. I'm going to see if I can grind down those old motor mounts, what's left of them. Maybe start welding that plate back in if I have gas for the welder. I don't know if I do. I know my big tank's empty and I'm already on my backup tank, so yeah, that's where we're at. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, leave them. You know where to leave them. So, I'll be back later after I do some more grinding.